I've decided to title this presentation "Too Queer for Your Binary" because of my own experiences trying to balance my queer identity into a binary form. Throughout this class, I've thought a lot about my own personal relationship with gender and wanted to create an informational piece to discuss what I believe to be the key pieces of non-binary identity politics. So on paper, gender is the attitudes, feelings, and behaviors associated with masculinity or femininity. These characteristics are seen in every aspect of our life. Masculinity includes a sense of firmness and hardiness, while feminine traits tend to focus more on nurturing and flexibility. You can see elements of each characterization in the actions of people's everyday life, even when someone doesn't exactly feel as though they are performing gender. Gender issues have become talked about more and more frequently in our societies, not just limited to non-binary gender issues, which have definitely gained more public attention in the last decade. The process of assignment of gender is typically done by doctors upon delivering a baby and looking for external sex organs, such as a penis for a boy or a vagina for a girl. The problem arises when a child is delivered that has ambiguous sex organs, and the doctor is the one to decide how this child will be treated for their entire life. A doctor may even make the call to perform an operation to change their genitalia, which can have lasting effects on the individual. Rather than gender just being equated to genitalia, modern definitions of gender include your identity and external expression as well to provide the most well-rounded possible sense of personal gender. The concept of gender as being dichotomous is the largest challenge to those with non-binary identities. Society views gender as just being male or female, which entirely erases a wide community of alternate gender identities. It's unrealistic to expect someone to have only masculine or only feminine traits. And under this system of dichotomous gender, men suffer especially hard. Men are expected to shut down their emotions entirely, as that's considered too feminine, leading to a society of repressed, hurting men. Of course, women are expected to be extra feminine as well, and are held to particularly harsh body standards. The perfect female body is thin, hairless, and curvy, and any body that falls outside those expectations is discredited. Non-binary is the word I use most to establish my gender identity. I can't describe my gender other than a mess of traits from many different sources, instead of just a singular gender form. I consider myself non-binary because of the interactions between different aspects of my personality, and view myself relatively androgynously in this process, despite having a rather feminine expression. Genderqueer is another term that I also identify with, as I tend to just identify with the queer concept in general. Being genderqueer means not subscribing to male or female, but instead as a separate queer identity. While transgender people also experience gender variance, if they subscribe to typical gender roles, they aren't considered a part of the non-binary community. but there is a huge amount of variance within all gender identities. Pronouns are typically gendered ways of addressing a person. The assumption is that most people use either he, him, or she, her pronouns, but those with gender-queer identities may desire to use gender-neutral pronouns. I personally use they/them pronouns in general, although I possess no objection to he/him pronouns and only slight discomfort from she/her pronouns. My girlfriend, who is assigned female at birth, also uses they/them pronouns, despite still desiring to be referred to as my girlfriend, showing how pronouns don't always match up evenly with other aspects of gender. Currently I identify myself as experiencing multiple genders that flow and change depending on the day. Rather than me identifying each individual difference in gender with a new label, I've decided to go with the variants. I feel as though I experience different aspects of masculinity and femininity at different times in my life. And every aspect of myself is myself, even without a definition. I express this identity in a variety of ways, particularly through a mashup of androgynous and hyperfeminine fashions in particular. Before I had reached the point where I am currently, I previously felt that I experienced no gender at all. Through these processes, my internal sense of self has remained largely the same, with obviously some natural growth involved as well. But at the time I felt as though I'd fit the label of a gender.